going on, everybody? This is GBA Reviews, and I am Davey from the 80s. And you are now in the good, the bad, and the atrocious. Now, today, I wasn't going to do this, but, I feel the need to talk about a film that I recently purchased. Now, I saw this film on Netflix, right? And I remember seeing a lot of people in the horror community, because, I'm a part of that horror community. I heard a lot of people saying, man, you got to see this movie, Terrifier, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, and that movie looks corny, it looked low budget, I don't want to see it. So one day I was just bored, had a lot of time on my hands, and I think I was wandering around Netflix. I was in the mood for a horror movie. So I saw this, and I think I saw, I didn't watch it, but I saw this on the list, and I saw Killjoy. I'm like, let me see what this clown is about. So we have Terrifier, right? I believe this movie came out in 2016. Let me double check. Yes, it did. All right, so yes, this is a 2016 slasher film, right? And it features a villain by the name of Art the Clown, who was portrayed by, what is his name? David Howard Thornton. Thornton. I will be talking about David in a minute. All right, so Terrifier, the synopsis of this movie. Now look, let me warn you off top. This movie gives off that B horror film vibe, if you know what I mean. It's not going to sweep you off your feet with acting. It is not going to tell this dynamic story that's going to have you guessing all the time. It is simply a slasher, and it's there to entertain you with gore and a crazy character, and that's it. It's not some complex story. It's not going to try to sweep you off your feet and have you think intellectually. It is just there to satisfy that slasher nature in the horror community, right? And honestly, I feel like it does a pretty good job. So let me tell you a quick synopsis of this movie. There's these two young girls. I believe it's Halloween, and they're walking around town, and they're just hanging out, right? They're hanging out. I think they're getting a bite to eat. They run across this weird-ass clown who's just hanging out and doesn't say anything, right? So this Art the Clown character, it's like a pantomime, right? He doesn't say anything, very weird. And one of the girls starts antagonizing him, taking pictures with him, and starts messing with him, right? And in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, ooh, you done messed up now, right? But so eventually it gets to the point where he gets weird or something, or he messes up the bathroom, and then the owner of the store kicks him out. And the lady's like, man, that guy was weird. And she was like, that's whatever, right? So eventually we find out this man is a psychopath. He has a trash bag full of different kind of weapons, and he is finding different ways to use them and utilize them, right? So the whole movie starts is basically that this clown is tracking down these two young women because he wants to kill them, all right? Now, what do I like about this movie? The good. The gore and special effects of this movie are amazing. David Howard Thornton's portrayal as Art the Clown is amazing. Art the Clown can easily be one of the new horror icons in this era, like easily. His face is just like, and then his methods of torture and methods of killing are just astounding, right? It's just really cool. And it really gets you, it really gets the blood pumping, if you know what I mean. Now, what else is good about this movie? The special effects are great. David Howard Thornton's portrayal of Art the Clown, and regardless of how a lot of people feel about these type of movies, it's even though the girls kind of like aren't the greatest actresses, they do their job, right? So let's go ahead and move on to the bad of the movie. These are the forgivable sins in a way. These are things that are there, but it's like not necessarily going to bother me a lot. Now, the storyline isn't all that amazing. It's not some crazy storyline, but at the same time, if you know horror movies, you know that they're not really complex stories, right? You have Michael Myers, a crazy brother who broke out of a psychiatric home. You have Jason, a boy thought to be dead and runs around killing people at a lake. You have Ghostface from Scream, who's been portrayed by numerous people with really stupid motives. So it's not really the backstory of the character doesn't really matter. Now, honestly, I kind of want to know more about the backstory of Art the Clown because this dude is a sick individual, like very sick, right? And that's what drives me. That's why I like him so much, because he's such a sadistic character, and David Thornton's portrayal of him is so amazing, right? But I'm still talking about the good, and I'm supposed to be moving on to the bad. I apologize. So the storyline isn't really that amazing. Now, some of the actors don't do a really good job, right? You can kind of tell like they're just like, it's not really. It gives you that kind of like 80s horror movie vibe where it's like, you know, that the teens just don't really know how to act, or the young actors are kind of like wet behind the ears, so they don't really know how to convey that emotion like that, right? So it's not the greatest acting, but at the same time, I remind you, this is a B horror movie. So it doesn't really, like, the acting isn't really there to like kind of like compel you. You're really here for the slasher. Now let's talk about the atrocious. I think there's one actor in this movie that just bugged me because they just did such a horrible job at acting. But at the same time, me knowing how these type of films work, it didn't bother me as much. But I can see that a average viewer would watch it and probably be like, what the hell am I watching? What, man, this is terrible. Man, this is terrible. It looked like it just looks like they just grabbed her off of the street, right? And like I said, I get that. But at the same time, like, I'm not here to watch these women or some of these ladies in this movie act their hearts out. I'm sitting there to watch them get their hearts cut out because it's a slasher movie, right? Or I'm watching them try to stay alive or survive or whatever. This is the reason I'm watching this movie. I'm not watching this movie to get like some amazing acting, right? I'm watching this movie so that I can, watch the slasher movie. This is what I'm here for. I'm here for the gore and guts and blood and such, right? So what would I give this movie? Honestly, I'm going to give you my biased opinion, and then I'm going to give you an opinion as a movie overall. My biased opinion, I give it a 4 out of 5 because I love horror. I love slasher movies. I think Art the Clown is an amazing, amazing villain, and I think he can be very, very in-house, right? So he can be, honestly, the next horror icon easily if Terrifier 2 does what it's supposed to do, right? Gets his name out there more. Maybe if they develop more, they get better acting in Terrifier 2, maybe he can take that next step into that horror icon. But in my opinion, he already kind of earned it with me. I love Terrifier. I love Art the Clown, right? Now, as a movie, just a straight up movie, you're probably going to give it a 2 out of 5, right? It's not some amazing movie. It's not really trying to compel you or to convey any kind of message or anything. It's just a typical B slasher movie. People running from a dude trying to kill him. It's nothing really technical about it. Some people even find Art the Clown kind of like humorous in a way, which he is very humorous. Guy kind of tells jokes before he kills you without talking, which is kind of funny. But, now, before we go, there's one thing that I like about this movie, all right? And this is a spoiler. So if you want to watch this movie and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to get the hell out of here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. All right, so the one thing I like about this movie, it completely ignores that damn cliche that a horror or a slasher icon has to always use a knife or some sort of weapon, and they don't use guns. This fucking dude, Art the Clown, is getting his ass beat by one of these young girls. And you're over here like, dang, man, she about to kill this dude. It's over. It's a wrap. This dude pulls out a pistol from the ankle holster and pops her ass out of nowhere and just da 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 da. I'm just like, wow, like, did that really just fucking happen? Like, this dude really just pulled out a pistol out of nowhere and shot this woman. And it, like I said, when you're watching this movie, you're just like, dang, dude, that's crazy. Because when you think about slashers, you think about knives and saws and gardening hedges and things like that. You think about those things. You don't think about somebody shooting somebody, right? Art the Clown pulls out a pistol and pops this girl. Craziest thing I ever seen in my life. Not crazy as in like, oh, it was crazy. But to me, it was unexpected because like I said, I was expecting this man to be like a slasher. So when I think of slasher, I'm thinking, you know, I didn't think that he was going to pull out a pistol and actually shoot her. So that killing that kind of, or going over that cliche that horror villains need to stab and maim with, like, you know, sharp objects and blunt objects. I'm glad they threw that out the window, and I'm glad he pulled out that pistol. That was one of the funniest, unexpected things that I've ever seen in a horror movie, and I loved it, right? So, if you are still there, this is GBA Reviews, also known as The Good, The Bad, The Atrocious. I am your host, Davey from the 80s, and I am out this thing. Adios. Go watch Terrifier now.